Okay.
Yes.
This is Busted Pencils, fully leaded education talk. Here are your hosts, Dr. Tim Slekar and Dr. Johnny Lupinacci, educated educators talking education.
Welcome, Busted Pencils, fully leaded education talk. It is Wednesday night. Educated educators talking education. Our friends from Educators Amplified, Teacher Joanna, Teacher Hallie are in the house, and Johnny Lupinacci's swinging in there at the last second. There, dude. We are so happy to see everybody, man. How's everybody going?
Oh yeah,
How's everybody
man.
doing?
You know how
not
it is.
going.
Well, why don't you talk about your situation first, and then we'll.
Yeah, I was going to say, anybody watching on the Facebook, the Twitter, or the YouTube channel, it's like, whoa, what happened to Tim's studio? I am in the basement in southeastern Ohio under a tornado warning right now, and so but
watch out!
And there's my wife down there with me.
Hey,
and we are just making
safe Mom from Shelton.
Joanna said, "Wait, that's Mom Michelle." Mom Michelle from all the rallies. Mom Michelle, I remember Mom Michelle. Here she's gonna put her face there.
Oh, I love it.
Awesome. But yeah, we're just making sure we're being safe. Making sure that everything. What, Joe?
It's really dark out.
Oh yeah. So
it shouldn't be dark yet.
It shouldn't look like that behind us.
Oh,
Michelle was saying, the darkness.
Oh, look at you. No matter what, you show up.
Hey, you know what? Busted Pencils Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. It's for real, man. And we do it. We show up, you know.
Yeah.
The ability to do the show always takes precedence over even a tornado. I mean, now, if you see us ducking or a little bit, I'll try to bring the computer with me. It'll be an on location during the tornado show. It can maybe, who knows, it'll win a Wisconsin Broadcasters Award for, the most action-oriented talk show ever in Wisconsin history. Oh, I'm just rambling on. Johnny Lupinacci, Teacher Hallie, Teacher Joanna. Well, actually, though, welcome. Teacher Joanna, Teacher Hallie, how are you two doing?
I can check in first. Roll call.
I'm doing Joanna.
Okay. Yeah, I'm doing okay. Things are good. It's midweek, right, in education land, and so we're through Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday's a couple days away. But actually, things are
good. Nice. Teacher Hallie?
Yeah, I would agree. Things are going good. What's interesting? I was just talking with some teachers that were saying, they're into April, they've got a full month of May, then June. So it's a little bit of the anticipation, but also spring break has already happened. So they're like, there's anticipation to things being over, but also kids being like, we're done. And it's only April. So, it's normal teacher, student, it's part of the craft as an educator, but that delicate dance between kids being like, all right, I'm tuckered, and like, we've got more to do, So, just talking with
well, we had last night. Yeah, think about it. So last night, it is April, and Joanna, you were talking about this. We had a new teacher, Mrs. K, on last night from Colorado, just talking about, she's a fourth grade teacher, and the continuing drama of state testing in the state of Colorado, and her fourth graders, and just looking at them and watching them doing the 3 hours of testing, and then looking at the essays that they're writing, and then realizing she's never going to be allowed to read them. The parents are never going to be allowed to read them. They're going to be shipped off into, where standardized tests go to get graded. And then she'll, the students will be ranked, and she'll get the scores next year when the students have already moved on to the next grade. Just the fun happiness of state testing season. And realizing, though, too, coming into the show tonight, looking at Wisconsin, report coming out of Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction, 60% of teachers in Wisconsin indicating that within 6 years or less, they're planning on leaving the profession. And Johnny and I were sitting there wondering about, okay, talking to Mrs. K last night, knowing what is happening, is this part of the teacher exodus? And how does testing season really kind of come at you at that moment in time, that if you were thinking about, maybe I can hang in there, maybe I can do it, but after 2 weeks of testing, how much do those 2 weeks solidify in some teachers' minds that going, that's it, I'm done, I can't do this anymore? Just a thought throwing out there, Teacher Joanna, Teacher Hallie, if you want to bite on that thought.
Well, hearing about Miss K, thinking about the report that came out in Wisconsin brings me back to 2017 when a group that Hallie and I were involved in did our own research. And we had 3 significant findings regarding the professional status of teachers. One was the members were really concerned about the erosion of professional status. 2, conditions and climate, and 3, retention. And I'm looking at the report right now with a quote that was like, I thought this would be my forever district, and I'm sadly coming to the realization that it's not. I have no future here. There's no light at the end of the tunnel. My wonderful coworkers are no longer a strong enough reason to stay. And it was 9 out of every 10 millennials reporting that they had serious thoughts of leaving due to unclear processes, a lack of voice in decision making, frequent changes to pay structures, and a high focus on standardization and a lack of autonomy in the classroom. So this was back in 2017, and we didn't do that report until so the problem precedes the report that we actually created. And all I can say is there really has been no serious effort to structurally changing what is happening to teachers here in Wisconsin.
No, there has not.
Teacher Hallie, you want to?
Yeah, I'll add to that. I'll be honest. Fine. Maybe they found this 6-year statistic and they feel like it's impactful, but I will say I roll at it because I'm like, there are teachers, like it's just so focused on a short-term issue. And then all the solutions that will come from it is really deprofessionalizing the profession of teaching. So it turns into, how do we make it easier for people to be teachers? Or how do we just get people in the door? But no one talks about how do we keep high quality professionals and the fact that we do have high quality professionals.
And that is what I meant, Hallie, by the lack of serious effort, right, at a structural reform. It's like this constant reaction and then really low grade solution. What made me laugh was, again, the thing about frequent pay structures, because how many years did you have and how many different pay structures did you experience?
I was in the classroom for 12 years and I think I had 7 different pay structures.
Right. And all of those were with you were told that
it's going to be great. And look at this huge increase and it'll be worth it. And they were the next best thing from sliced bread 7 times.
It was a shell game. And so how can a professional believe in that?
Yes.
That's not stable. That's not steady.
Well, Teacher Hallie, you're hinting to something I want to come back to. However, first, we've got Jack from Merrimack on the line. I always like to hear from Jack. Jack, what's happening, our friend?
First of all, to give you a little background on me, in case people don't know, I retired from teaching after 40 years and spent the time teaching at grade levels from 6th grade up through roughly sophomore university level, and taught in public, private, and parochial schools. So I do have a little bit of a background to have an idea what I'm talking about. And the first thing I'm going to say is that Act 10 really is a discouraging situation for prospective teachers. My son, who did not graduate that long ago from at one of the state universities with a degree and a certification in social studies teaching, moved out of the state of Wisconsin into Minnesota. And right now, because of course he's not fully certified in Minnesota, he's doing subbing jobs. But he was attracted from that when I mentioned something that appears on occasionally has appeared on Native Roots Radio as an ad, which was a $10,000 signing bonus for new teachers from the St. Paul, I believe it was St. Paul School District in Minnesota. These guys are serious about trying to recruit teachers. In Wisconsin, that is just the opposite of the case. We're doing about everything possible to discourage it.
Yeah, Jack. I mean, you think about that and the way that comes across, particularly right over the border in one state, and to see the difference. I wonder, to Act 10, and we talk about that in Wisconsin, we probably need to really kind of reacquaint listeners, to saying like what happened in Act 10 was truly the biggest attack on public school employees in the country at the time when that happened. Governor Scott Walker literally took away the collective bargaining rights, deprofessionalized teachers, and set in motion this reality of going, you say, you know what, it's a teacher exodus. And what is it that fuels that exodus? Well, one of the things that happened in for you guys in Wisconsin at that time really was this whole, wow, we have no ability now to advocate, to talk about what we need. In fact, if we even do that, it's against the law to talk about the realities. And in fact, collective bargaining was outlawed, correct, Teacher Joanna?
Well, yes, having a collective bargaining agreement, right, is against
And Act 10
is not allowed through Act 10. But you know what is sad about it too? So like it's terrible, but districts were quick to pounce. Like some of the first things they did were remove.
Yeah.
And to me, that was a choice. I don't know that had to be done. And so when you dismantle the pay structure immediately, when you cut off retirement benefits, when you force people to do supervision without pay, when you force sub without pay, I mean,
What do you expect?
Hey, what do you expect? Busted Pencils, fully leaded education talk. More Educators Amplified. Teacher Joanna, Teacher Hallie, when we get back.
Nice, folks. Nice.
I feel like the lag went
so
away.
I have a delay. I have a delay or not?
I don't think so.
You had one, but it kind of went away. So if it comes back, we'll just remind you in the chat. And all we did was just wait just a second or two.
Yeah, I
saw, and then we jump in.
Yeah, I saw the guidance there, and so because I kept going. I'm like, what are you guys waiting for? Like, oh,
no, you're good.
You know,
no,
it works. It worked.
And
it
I was
works great.
wondering
And Hallie,
yeah.
Okay. And Hallie, so I'm kind of taking your cue, and I didn't want to do this until we had commercial break or do you kind of said, I was in the classroom for 12 years. Are we going to bring it up tonight then?
I don't care. I'm open to wherever the conversation goes. I don't think it has to be like.
It doesn't have to be like dun dun dun.
Right, as a dominating thing. I have a perspective on like why I left, and I think the DPI report does not get at why teachers are leaving.
Far too long. Yeah, for far too long, teachers have been dealing with this nonsense. Busted Pencils, fully leaded education talk. Educated educators talking education. Educators Amplified in the house tonight too. Teacher Joanna, Teacher Hallie. Big report in the state of Wisconsin coming out from the Department of Public Instruction. Hey, guess what? The status of teachers in Wisconsin post Act 10, it's worse than ever. It's horrible. And boy, talk about the ability to kind of, bring some light to that. And again, Jack from Merrimack, love his call to talk about, helping illustrate too the difference between crossing a border into one state. We've been spending a lot of time, Johnny, talking about the, extolling the virtues of Michigan, and they're on the other side there of Wisconsin. So right now, people in Wisconsin, boy, I don't want to act, but there are models on both sides of you on how to actually restore and bring teaching back into the fold. And maybe too, by listening to Busted Pencils, we can get that motivation to continue going as people hear these stories. We hear from Jack, and again, Mrs. K was from Colorado, but the reality of the attack on teaching is something to say. It's an attack on democracy, and let's put that forward and realize here too. These are not teachers whining about, I don't have my chalk. This is actually about the fact that they are being deprofessionalized, shut down, turned away, and actively being told actually what you think about how to work. Not even what you think, what you know about good teaching, what you know about children, what you know about the community. That doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. It's out the door. We're not going to deal with that. Man, I'm ranting tonight. Sorry about that.
It's okay, everybody. Tim. You got good stuff to say. And it's wonderful to have Educators Amplified again with us. I mean, every Wednesday. It's my favorite day of the week. One, because it's halfway through the week, but also because Teacher Joanna and Teacher Hallie are with us. And we had Teacher Mrs. K from Colorado last night, who, talked about the ups and downs of teaching and exactly like amplifies what Teacher Hallie was just sharing in this DPI report and all of this. Like, it's never been easy to be a great teacher. It's not easy work. And Tim, I'll even push back against this a little bit, because I know what everybody means when they say the professionalization of teaching, but I take a slightly unpopular opinion about this. Teaching has always been blue collar work. The unions have always had a really close relationship. So early on, the UAW giving space to Margaret Haley and the whole Chicago crew to say, together we are laborers. We can't fight for our rights as laborers without you teaching our children and doing the hard labor that you all do in classrooms. And so, I mean, teaching is a blue collar profession. And part of the elitism that exists through education, through schooling, is this idea that it's white collar, but it's always been a little bit of a hoodwink, because teachers don't get white collar pay. They don't have white collar status in our community. It is hard work. Teachers, we appreciate you, but we also know that it has gotten like harder and harder, not to teach, but just to be able to teach. Remember last night we were talking about, please just let me teach. And Teacher Joanna the week before was like, I'm around people who are like, just let us teach. Like, let us do the craft that we're so good at, that we are passionate about. And also, hey, it's not too much to ask. Take care of us while we're doing it. And that's the thing that's missing. We are not, by and large, as state governments or as, our text, we got a text that said another big reason teachers are leaving is school boards running the schools. And this is Tim who gave us a text. And I don't know if, Tim, you're a teacher or not, but this is probably a sentiment that many of us feel. But I'm going to push back against this a little bit too. We need to really be active in our school boards, because school boards can make a difference. And so vocal efforts on the school boards, more teachers. When you talked about what's happening in Michigan too, Tim, I don't want to say the grass is always greener on the other side of the lake. I'm part of a teacher exodus from Michigan. There was an era where it got unbearable, right? I mean, my pay went down way significantly. The charterization of Detroit public schools, the loss of unions there was really tough. So these things can swing. And one of the things we heard about in Michigan that's happening related to school boards and related to legislation, and Tim, I think that's where you're going with, can Educators Amplified and Busted Pencils help amplify the voice of defenders of public education and those teachers who are like, let me teach, and say, legislators, hey, I think we need more teachers in legislation, because Mitch, our guest a couple nights ago, said the tide is turning in Michigan because teachers are part of the legislation. Teachers have gotten very active, not only in school boards, but at the state level. And that gives this opportunity for the government that is in power there to really to seize the moment. And he said there's almost a shorthand, an understanding that what we're doing is we're making it possible for good teaching to be done in the schools, which means children have better teachers that are taken care of, that are rested and enjoying and practicing their craft in a way that I think Teacher Joanna would say maybe is more regulated than how most of us experience classrooms. It's pretty brutal just to be able to teach.
I gotta say, your story is uplifting, but because years ago, Hallie and I would be like, and they want us to run for legislator? We're gonna do the school, we're gonna do it all, and we're gonna run for office? Like, come on. I get what you're saying, but right, Hallie, we've been through that where we're like, how much of this are we expected to take on? Now, I get that you're saying like it's a contribution, but we have been contributing and advocating to legislators, to school boards, to administration, steady. That's why Educators Amplified exists. And we've been asking these questions steady for 12 years. Will the erosion of our professional status be acknowledged? Will we get serious about reversing the trend? Will trust ever be a predominant energy in our workplace? Will professionals be compelled to stay in teaching over a course of a career? Will student learning and opportunity be impacted if high quality professionals continue to depart? So we're out here, we're gathered, we're saying that, but we get reports that kind of just crystallize what we've been saying, and we still don't have serious effort.
Action. Yeah.
Yeah, because that DPI report is 13 years post Act 10. And I'm still like, really? You came up with salary and work-life balance is the problem? Because to me, even work-life balance is offensive. Like, oh, poor ladies can't figure out how to do work and home. No, that's not what this is about. You know what I mean?
Well, and I want to back up because Teacher Joanna, that's a really important point for me to clarify. Referencing to like Margaret Haley was a teacher who this is so unique that like she started the teachers unions, and in order to do that, had to step away from teaching, and teachers had to support her. We can't just keep stacking this up on teachers. So what I'm thinking is like those reports. I'm wondering, did teachers make those reports? Are teachers in a position to say, this is what the report says, let's change things? And I think that's what Mitch was saying is part of what's special in Michigan right now is that there are people who have been supported in their districts and in their community, or who are also part of this teacher exodus. Because it's tough when you're a teacher to say, I can't afford, or my body cannot hold up staying in the classroom as is. It's a really conflicted decision to make. And when you make it, some of these teachers, they're supported to go into positions to say, enough is enough. Let's make the change. And I think that's what I hope that's what we're saying is like, we got to get there or nothing's going to change.
That was good.
That was a great cut there, man.
Yeah.
Dude, you took that right up to the second, man. Nice. You sound like a professional.
Johnny second.
Whoa. Johnny on the second. Johnny. Yeah, nice.
Do I sound mad or do I just sound serious?
No,
you
you
don't
sound wonderful.
Okay.
You guys sound great.
Yeah, you sound great.
Hallie,
Sound
can
real.
I have your permission to cut that statement you just made into an ad for the show? Because I'm not kidding. That's like one of the best lines.
With my voices?
I think that's so good.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Oh my God.
Okay, cool.
Anya, good. I'm glad you thought that too, because I wrote it down. I was like, okay, yeah, Hallie just made an incredible, great, like a promo line there.
Oh yeah, no, that's so good because it's highlighting exactly what it is. It's like, oh, ever since women got into the workplace, they can't figure out how to be women and work, and by that they mean the home. And it's like, what?
Yep.
How dare you?
And then that's how
gonna
it's
be
worded.
And,
That's how it's all worded. It's offensive.
Exactly.
well, we got to get that clip to Tony because actually I guess that little he'll make it into what's called a reel and put it up on YouTube. And Hallie, actually last week there was a little back and forth between me and you on the high high impact, or whatever high quality instructional materials. And then you were like, this is offensive. And Tony made it into like a 20-second YouTube reel. And I guess it's like he put it out and it's now got like 2,000 or 3,000 views. And people
I was scrolling through Instagram.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I was like, oh, there's Tim. And then I was like, oh, that's me.
Isn't that the most unnerving? I've had that too, scrolling and seeing my face without knowing it was going to be there. It's scary, isn't it?
Well, I kind of liked it. Well, I laughed because I'm just like, the passive scroll where I'm like, do, like, and then I'm like, oh, like, I know those people.
Well,
oh, that's me.
But I can see that statement you just made about, women and stuff like that. That's going to really carry. I mean, I'll be surprised. But it's sad that it will probably have some tendency to go viral, because you in like 3 sentences there, you made the point that I think for sometimes it takes us hours and we never really make that point.
Yeah.
So, in other words, good job.
Oh yeah, everyone. I love hearing from everyone.
Well, and we've been able to have a lot of. We've been thinking of this because, again, our friend Tessa was on that interview, and so our women's circle, whatever, we've been going over it,
communicating
this week.
About it.
And like I said, because our group did do our report.
Right. Did you plug Tessa to see if she'll call?
Yeah, Hallie reached out to the circle.
Hey, circle.
We know D-Lynn's watching, listening.
Hey, D-Lynn, what's up?
Hey, that means if they're watching, they can hear us right now. So if you're watching and you're hearing us, pick up the phone and give us a call. Yeah, John, we appreciate you, but we would appreciate a phone call too.
And so I don't,
like while you're there.
And I'm not poo-pooing anything in Michigan. I'm really happy for them.
Right.
I am right, but it is interesting to hear about this system of support, because we just get emails that are like, teachers, you should run, and like then that feels really overwhelming.
No, and I think even that, I'm gonna have to go. I want to go back and listen to your reframing that too, Joanna, because I think there's a segment in there that's worth capturing too, because you said it very clearly, and very and it wasn't angry. It was just very a matter of fact, which is the kind of those statements are this kind of like, oh my God, wait, yeah, we really do.
30 seconds.
Want teachers to run, but holy crap, who ever thought about the fact that they got enough to do?
Right.
And so how do we create space? If we want teachers active in these roles, we have to create intent.
Sorry, the leg.
Right. You said we have the conversation all the time.
Am I lagging again?
You were for a sec.
I think it's just harder because I can't see you.
Try the tornado.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, hold my hand. Help is on the way. Busted Pencils. Fully leaded education talk. 855-752-4842 is the number. It's Educators Amplified in the house on Wednesday. Teacher Joanna, Teacher Hallie, looking at the DPI report about the state of teaching in Wisconsin. It ain't good. And as we came out before, Teacher Hallie was going, well, really? Like, why would we be surprised, 12 years later after Act 10, to find out that, guess what? Things haven't gotten any better. There's no pay raises, you name it. And so in one way, it's just kind of like going, from our standpoint as educators, what was the purpose? And maybe this is the question. So how do we then turn that report, instead of us, which we should rightfully criticize what took you so long, how do we turn that report into an actionable movement? And I think Teacher Joanna really hit a part on that when Johnny and I were talking about saying we want educators to get active, but then realizing too, Joanna here is saying maybe the first thing that needs to happen in Wisconsin is to create space and time for some of you teachers to be able to do that kind of work. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Well, yeah. I mean, I just think there's a really impossible expectation set, which is now well documented about and Johnny talks about it really well, of what happens, to actually operate the school. And now, the expectation is go out and campaign to save the schools. And so many of us do that. Again, like it is
Mhm.
mind blowing to me how advocacy is part of my job, whereas my husband has a job and he's a union member, but
Mhm.
his job does not require advocacy on the regular. We're
That's
like,
right.
my kids really believe that like teaching and union work is like they've just
Mhm.
seen it as part of the job. I
Mhm.
would pick them up from school and bring them to mommy's classroom so mommy could have meetings about how people could be protected and get paid. Like,
Mhm.
that's just what they've seen, where I'd
Mhm.
pack 2 lunches that day, one for them at school and one for them to come back to school for me for the meetings that I always felt were I had always said I wished there was time for that kind of stuff within the job. I think
Mhm.
it's really again, it's not okay with how much has to go in outside of the job for people to be able to do the job well and to provide that kind of rich information um, that can really help with decision making. But that's really not part of it. So yeah, I'm like, okay, keep piling on the plate. And this report, again, it focused on saying something about like, right, it's is it 6 years, Hallie, that
Yeah.
people don't make it beyond. And I think that is something to really pay attention to because I know something that we've studied and looked at is the disproportionate focus on attraction
Mhm.
and literally no focus on retention. And from
Mhm.
the start, I was saying, you better figure out how you're going to, you got people here. Let's figure out how to hang on to them. But we were literally
Mhm.
told, you need to sacrifice. You all need to sacrifice. You're not going to get raises. You need to sacrifice so we can go attract other people. Or veteran people need to not expect to get a cost of living raise or any, because we need to give that money to the people on the front end.
Mhm.
And
Mm.
I mean, so that set up this whole like pitting people against each other. And now Hallie's reporting again, saying like, and that doesn't work because they they dedicated that part of the money to the younger folks, and then it wasn't the money.
Right.
That's not why they left.
Right. Because I'm going to offer that is exactly what I was going to say. Like, why aren't we looking at like why people leave at the 6th year, or like why can't we just honestly say it's because like my career has been post Act 10 and beyond. I was never treated as a professional, or the entire system is built on what teachers are doing wrong. How can we professionally develop them? It's never questioning, what are you seeing? It's never asking like, what do you think children need? It's just like, here's what needs to be done. I will assign it to you. If you ask a question or say like, are like, not even combative, but just kind of like clarifying, like, how does this make sense? You're seen as combative. Like it's just nothing about it is collaborative. Nothing about it is saying you are an expert. It has always been do this job. And I'll say
Mm.
that I had special education responsibilities. And for a very long time, I was doing the job of 2 people. Like, and I'm not alone, but I can give my experience. But I was doing the job of 2 people. And I believed that something was wrong with me because I couldn't do it all. Because I was trying to do special education responsibilities and my everyday classroom responsibilities. And I held on to that for years. And when it clicked, where I was like, oh, it's impossible for anybody to do what I'm being asked to do, and then communicated that with my bosses, my administrators, I was looked at like, well, too bad. That's the job. Maybe this isn't a good fit.
Oh my
Like,
God.
what?
You
Mm.
wouldn't believe how many people I counseled that were
Yeah.
told it wasn't a good fit. So there's
Yeah.
some real
Yeah.
internal issues too.
Yes.
So that's the other thing where the report doesn't
Doesn't
sit
address.
well with me because again, we skip over, how I'll even say, like, we skip over things when we talk about students. We skip over
Mhm.
things when we talk about teachers. Um,
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
state legislator isn't setting the policies in these individual districts. You know, there is room for collaboration, and there could be non-binding working agreements. There could be meet and confer agreements. And by and large, that's not happening. And so, right, what it doesn't really get at is what are the conditions and how do we make those
Mm.
better? And I think it's been
You know
hard
what?
for people to admit. Go ahead.
You know what it made me think though, that we just said that what we're doing here, what we do every Wednesday with you guys in this talk and the conversation we're having, this is the conversation that never makes the report. You know what? It
Right.
it
Yeah.
never makes the report the way, and so I'm glad we're able to have it here, and I'm glad people out there are listening right now and finally getting to hear this. And so yeah, when you're out there and you're reading this report about how bad it is for teachers in Wisconsin, recognize too that you're only getting a sneak or not even a look, because when you come in and listen to other teachers, whether teachers in your area, so if you're up in Hayward and you're listening up there, talk to the teachers up there to ask them the reality of, okay, in addition to all these things they're saying in the report, tell us what else there is out there, because that's the conversation. Is you want to say, if we're going to address retention, and teacher Joanna, you pointed this out, and in fact it's been very clear from a research standpoint, is that there would be no teacher shortage if we just increased retention of 40% of the people leaving. Increasing retention of 40% of the people leaving would mean there would be no teacher shortage, there would be no teacher exodus. So this isn't actually a problem of not people available. This is people leaving, and then the people who are qualified not willing to come back. Well, why would they? Why would they want to come back after that? So I mean, here it is. So this is what we do. It's Busted Pencils, fully led education talk. The number's 855-752-4842. Educators Amplified in the house. Teacher Joanna, Teacher Hallie, talking about the woeful state of teaching in Wisconsin. Lupinacci, man, you got a look on your face.
Well, I mean, I do love this conversation that we're having, and I think it's so great, one, that we can have it with Teacher Joanna and Teacher Hallie, because it's one we just need to be having with teachers. I mean, that's the most important piece that keeps coming back to me, is like all of this. And Mitch brought it up the other day, as part of legislative, committee in Michigan. Like, the most important work he's talking about is because teachers are involved in the conversation.
Right. Even in that DPI report, the teacher that they interviewed, who is no longer teaching, who's a good friend of ours, so shout out Tessa, but she does say, and she, like, I miss working with students.
Yeah, she wishes she was a teacher.
Yes. And how, like, so it isn't just like, well, then go apply. There's millions of open positions. She's like, what prevents me is the job isn't teaching. The job isn't actually working with students. It's carrying out a to-do list from a manager. And so even that, to me, it strikes me of, like, you have people who want to teach, but who are like, I've done it already and I don't want it, and I can't do it that way. Like, that's so
well, and it is troubling. And I am, believe it or not, forever optimistic, because I am like, it doesn't have to be this way. These are things that we can treat people well. You don't need a collective bargaining agreement for that.
Yes.
We can have great collaborative relationships and come to mutual understandings without a legal agreement. But
Correct.
you have to be willing, and you have to put in the effort.
Wait, so you're saying civility doesn't need to be legislated as
right?
Yeah.
Right. We say Act 10, but I always love that point Joanna makes, because we say, like, since Act 10, and it has been since Act 10. But like, right. Like, it didn't say you couldn't treat teachers like professionals.
Caller Tom from Jackson, what's happening?
Well, I just want to say two things. One is that now that you've gone to a full week, it's really, I think it's even a better show than it was when it was a one day a week, and you're actually able to get into more important issues more deeply. I like that. The other thing too is that people who live in the state, especially in the suburbs and stuff, maybe not like in Milwaukee and other places like that, but they'll see these huge schools, beautiful schools, and then they'll say, oh, they'll hear that the school wants, another $120 million, and the local people think, wow, they need another big, beautiful building. And I think and I'm wondering that's not really so much the teachers, it's up to the administrators, I'm guessing, that want to do all this stuff and, have these Taj Mahals, I guess. But I'm wondering how it can be stressed that really it needs to be more deep inside the school at the teacher level, that really is where the money needs to go, especially since Act 10.
Tom, thank you so much, man. And thanks for the kudos. We really appreciate it. Glad 5 days a week makes a difference. Yeah, exactly. All right, Teacher Hallie, respond,
I was just
inside
say thank you, Tom. I love that perspective. I saw he was from Jackson. We live very close to each other. So I identify with what he's hearing from the community of, right, these beautiful schools that externally look like that's a nice school, so things are good. I just appreciate him acknowledging that it's an internal problem that's going on. And so getting to how do we address these internal problems, right, just shout out to Tom. Thank you. Well said.
It made me think about how for all this time, we've been told that one-time costs were better than long-term investments in people. Like that would be, we were told like that was the rationale for why, we couldn't do long-time investment in employees, but we could do one-time costs on infrastructure or products.
Yes.
Well, and you know what? In fact, that is one of those things that comes across. Like we have money to build something right now. We don't have long-term money to invest. And Johnny has been talking about this too. We kind of think about this. We seem to not understand that investment is the reality if we want anything to be better, Johnny.
I mean, yeah, there's so many places where we need to start. And then I'm just reminded, like, can we just keep this simple? I mean, Teacher Joanna and Teacher Haley keep saying, like, come on, can we just say, like, bottom line, and it should be a unified voice. We need it to be better for teachers in classrooms. We need to be able to teach. If we are able to be listened to about what is good teaching and let us do it, and it isn't one size fits all, and it isn't in successful new curriculums, it's in letting great teachers teach, like Tessa in the article who said, I want to be in classrooms, but I can't. That's telling us that there are many barriers in the way of just being able to teach. Now, I know we got LA Tom on the line, but we're going to go to break. And when we get back from break, LA Tom, we got you, my man. And thanks for joining us, listeners. We got Educators Amplified and Busted Pencils. Tim from his tornado basement when we get back.
It looks like he's on his tornado timeout.
I know.
What? Why? What
did Joanna say about this, Tim? Because are you regulating or are you going full tilt? Because you're kind of a full tilt guy, but it's okay to take care of yourself, man.
Oh, what do you? Oh no, we're fine. We're fine.
Okay. I got stressed when you're like, we're in a tornado. Like I'm like, oh boy, here we go.
No, I think it looks like it's beyond us now.
Through?
Okay.
It's still considered, but it's not nearly as dark out there, and it doesn't seem to be as windy as it was.
30 seconds.
Hallie has a good tornado story.
Yeah. Long story short, my husband and I literally drove our family into a tornado. Like
into it, not away from it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not the way you're supposed to go.
At a hotel and shelter. Oh yeah. It's scariest moment of my life.
Yeah.
Busted Pencils, fully leaded education talk, educated educators Talking Education Wednesday night. Educators Amplified in the house. Teacher Joanna, Teacher Hallie. Numbers 855-752-4842. We do, though, have L.A. Tom on the line, and we said we were going to get right to L.A. Tom. L.A. Tom, what's happening, our friend?
Hey, guys. First off, we the people ultimately are the government, so we must never forget that. Get registered to vote and make sure that you're registered to vote so you can make a difference in your community. Second, from an outsider standpoint looking at it, it just seems to me like education has become so similar to the corporate world, especially when they took the guardrails down through Act 10. Yes, you can do an agreement or whatever, without maybe a strong union. But the thing is, the union not being strong, I think, is what's really, really made people and the teachers in Wisconsin suffer. And what I mean by that is that if you have less people having democracy in the workplace, you're basically going to end up to a race to the bottom, number one. And number two, they just want people to be cogs in a wheel. They don't want teachers to be special. They don't want teachers to stand out. They want teachers that are just going to be yes men and yes women. They don't want people that are creative. And if you are a leader and you are a leader as a teacher, watch out, you're going to get slammed down because of the fact that if you have an opinion, they don't want to hear it. In the past, I think that there was a little bit of protection with the union when it was strong. I just don't think the unions are strong anymore. And maybe they're getting better, but the thing is, through Act 10, they broke down that union, and when they did that, it made it so teachers did not have an ability of a place to go to if they were people that were creative and out-of-the-box thinking.
L.A. Tom, right on the money. There it is. L.A. Tom, always love when you're calling. I can see Teacher Joanna's got that grin of, yeah, he knows what he's saying.
Oh, yeah. And then it's just depressing. And it really is. And he's right. I'm like, ding, ding, ding. This is a huge part of it. And yet, again, maybe I sound like the contrarian because I'm like, and yet I've only had experience in places that do have strong unions. I've been in places that have strong unions. I've worked in places that have pro-public education school boards. And I still have seen an exodus of teachers and conditions severely diminish.
Yep.
And so there's a lot to this. And yet not, because like Johnny said, it's kind of simple though.
But I love that, Teacher Joanna, because in many ways we do this to each other, we do this to ourselves, and like it is a reckoning moment to say, hold on, enough. We got to do this differently. Like we can't keep, like teachers are great and they are like, they'll rise to the occasion and they will get the job done, but often at the expense of their own health. And then over time, like we know when we're not able to do great teaching because of all of those things. And so it gets harder and harder and harder. And we rise to the occasion, until it's just not possible. And that's a big part of a teacher exodus, even in, strong union shops, strong districts that support public education. It's still nearly impossible to do great teaching. That's structural. That's something our school leaders, and that's something we have to, see change.
Well, and it's really hard to constantly be told, wait for the next thing, because that was it too. Like now, like no one wants to take kind of direct responsibility, right? If you go talk to maybe your principal, they'll say, well, my hands are tied, it's the district. You go to the district, they might say, well, my hands are tied, it's the board. You go to the board and the board says, well, our hands are tied, it's the state legislator. And so it's like there's this group of people who have been targeted, teachers, and they have been following those chains of commands and those channels. And really they kind of get told they moved on. What would you say, Hallie?
No, I would echo everything that you're saying, that it's really this layered issue because of the fact of what we were talking about weeks ago about how there's option A, there's option B, and there's option C. Like we can keep pointing at like the big bad wolves, but like what we're trying to preserve wasn't great either. Or like everyone's kind of become almost like lethargic or apathetic to just like, well, this is the way it works. And I just am like, let's transform. Let's do better. Let's like revive this profession so that we're excited, we're uplifted, we're, and then that only trickles down to the student.
Yeah, we can build a better way, but we've got to go within. And someone's, when I talked about external and someone else said internal, that is it. This is internal, both figuratively and literally.
So if you're not watching on the video stream and you're listening through Civic Media app, or you're on the radio, tuned in listening, we get these wonderful texts and also these little things that scroll by. And you know what? I couldn't agree more with Heather Hansen. Thanks for your props to Teacher Joanna. But yeah, Teacher Joanna, Teacher Hallie and Teacher Joanna, a house, Educators Amplified.
Thank you, Heather. Heather's our sister. She's still up in it.
That's
so
right.
Shout out to all.
Appreciate you, Heather, too, for doing the work. Thanks for tuning in, and thanks for doing the work that you do, Heather.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hey, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, all four of us are here in the house. We've been teasing this, but April 30th, listeners, we've told you mark your calendar, because Tim and Johnny will be at the Minocqua Tap House in Madison for live show Tuesday, April 30th. Also, live from Madison on Monday. So we'll be in studio. So we'll be in your hood, which means we're connecting with Teacher Joanna and Teacher Hallie while we're in town. But lots of exciting things happening on the 29th and 30th, close to you all. So we hope to see you. Come on out April 30th. But lots of fun stuff.
That is so exciting, and I hope all the listeners come out to that Minocqua Tap Room. Sounds like super fun, a live broadcast.
A live broadcast. Teacher Joanna, and Teacher Hallie, this is bringing back that old Educators Amplified days when we were doing live broadcasts from a bar in Milwaukee. Now we're doing a live broadcast from a tap room in Madison, Minocqua Brewing. Really excited about that. Really excited about the partnership that we're developing with Minocqua and their tap room. Busted Pencils. See y'all tomorrow night.
Bye.